Over the past 2 years, I had the privilege to interview over 50 founders on my podcast to learn about what the next generation of founders are doing to create success. The businesses range from AI to healthy food options all the way to blockchain. Although many founders came from different backgrounds, had different business models, there were still some common threads throughout all the podcasts. I tried to compile the top 5 learnings I had within these podcasts to share them with you. Number 1 was build in public and be genuine. Ideas are useless. You can Google right now a $1 billion idea, and ones will come up that if you could solve that problem, you would guarantee create a unicorn. For example, build a better email. The problem is implementation is so difficult, and developing these ideas through all the nights and hard work is really where the magic is made. It requires a village to raise a child. You've heard that saying before. And the same thing's with a business. You'll need a lot of help to get your business off the ground. You'll have to work with customers to ensure you're really solving a real problem. Another part of this is that most businesses may require funding or outside resources. So you better have some coffee chats, talk to people, because you may not know. You may meet someone who could be that key to help you get Series A funding, who may be the angel investor. Coming along with this is really being authentic. People want to hear from you as the founder of a business about what problem you're trying to solve. And that passion can get you early customers very quickly. A great example of this is Midday Squares. They shared their journey. They shared how they almost got sued. They shared their struggles. But behind that, they created such a strong brand that got people interested in their product because they're buying along within the mission. Number 2 was expect change and be very realistic. Some founders love to start businesses, some like to scale businesses, and some like to be managers of 1,000-people companies. All these different stages require a different level of knowledge and a different level of focus. One of the learnings I heard from many first-time founders was how different a scaling business can be. In the early days, you're doing marketing, you're doing legal, you're wearing the sales hat. But as you scale, you have to develop a skill of knowing who to hire and where to give work out to. This was a skill set a lot of founders I spoke to said they had to work on or were looking on developing more. It is hard to give out control of the business, but to get to that higher level of success is something you need to learn and do. And this is where being realistic is also important. You're not great at everything. And me, myself, for example, being a generalist, you have to know where you need help and where to hire it in. The best founders and the best team have one skill in common. And what that skill is knowing who to hire and when. Finding top talent tends to be a differentiator to get that business from that 1 million ARR to that 100 million ARR. Number 3 was that you really can't balance success. A lot of these founders talk about how being an entrepreneur or a startup founder is time consuming and all encompassing. Now, this does not mean you have to go break up with your girlfriend, leave your children, and become a bachelor for life. No. But what this does mean, just like being an athlete, is you have to learn how to focus on recovery and view that as a part of your job. Rob from Outway gave a great example of this. He was a former professional downhill mountain biker. He spoke about how when you're an athlete, everything you do is focusing on developing your craft. You still have a life, but your life is also geared around your training or your focus. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. You have to develop a routine that allows you to be as successful as possible, to help you get your sleep, to focus on recovery and know when to relax. You may have to stop playing those video games or doing things that are not really helping you build your dream or focusing on your journey. It is a lot of work, but the key here is really structuring your life around the way of really allowing you to put more hours to greater success. Imagine trying to go to the NBA with only practicing a few hours a day. It's not possible. And the same thing comes for running a business. You have to really set up time and structure and put your full focus into this. Number 4 is money's not a motivator. Now, this does not mean people don't like their Rolexes, hanging out on yachts, and driving the Lambos. To be a successful founder, you tend to need to have more of a motivation than just the money. The problem with money, typically, and you can look up the psychology behind this, is that it's very short-term focused. This is a long-term journey. There are going to be some great times and some hard times. Sometimes the future may not be as certain as you like it to be. So having only money to focus on tends to see a lot of founders quit and fail and pivot to something else, because there's always a get-rich-quick scheme that is more enticing. What a lot of these founders spoke about and where they seemed to get their energy was from a greater passion or something that could drive it further. They all spoke about how they loved and they had a passion behind creating and growing something, and that is what tended to get people to work harder and longer hours than just the shiny ticket of possibly exiting one day. And this is also the case if you talk to VCs. Many of them speak about how they look for entrepreneurs who can get through the tough times. Number 5, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Every overnight success has a 10-year plan behind it. Most successful entrepreneurs you've heard of, if you look into their past, there is a years and years of work behind what they've considered the overnight success. Speaking with the founders of my podcast, it was the same thing. They all had stories that were many years in the works to get to where they are today. Maybe they were in university working on the idea, developing their dev skills, working at other startups, developing their own side hustles during the day to really develop the skills of what made them successful and where they are today. The same thing they also spoke about is how they all have a long-term focus. Growing a business will probably take you 10 years or at least a decade to do. So you better have that time horizon. So if I had to summarize all my podcasts or this video in a few sentences, it would be that being a founder and creating a startup is harder than you think, takes longer than you think, but most importantly, you have to be humble because there's a lot of doors you're gonna have to knock down and a lot of no's you're gonna have to hear. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Check out the podcast to hear from the founders themselves and follow along for more journeys of entrepreneurs, startup tips, and really creating a startup from the ground up.